Okay, finally. Can you hear me out there? I think we do have some life. Think I fixed it. Yep. Hear me? Don't really have a lot of people now. We had a good Jessica, we had a good amount of folks in and then we lost them. And then let's see. How are we looking out there? We're going to just get right into it. Loud and clear. All right. Thank you for that, Mrs. Mo. So here we are just on a random Friday. And Jessica's on me for like getting some tasting notes in, saying like, hey, basically get off your ass and start doing some tasting. And I'm a little behind, not gonna lie. I've got a lot of stuff cooking and running a magazine, Bourbon Plus, and some TV shows and stuff. So that's fun. But yeah, I'm behind on my tastings, and I've got an app that I'm working on that you all are going to love when it comes out. So enough talky, more tasty. So I'm going to start off with the Jack Daniel's Tennessee Taster Selection. It's called Barrel Reunion 1. It's a Tennessee whiskey finished in red wine barrels. They finish it in these red wine barrels for 248 days. So, as you know, last year, Jack Daniels came out with this really nice barrel called the Heritage Barrel. It was a lower proof barrel, and it was gorgeous. It was in my top 5 for American whiskeys of the year. So when people want to talk about some of the great distillers in this world, Jack Daniels tends to get kind of dismissed because it's Jack Daniels. Now, who gets excited about that for the most part? But the fact is that they do make good whiskey, and I guarantee you, making Jack Daniels as consistent as they make it is very, very challenging. All right, so here we go. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Tasters. All right, the nose is kind of like corn. Are you writing this down? Yeah. Corn. Damn, that's very corn forward. And then honestly, I hate to say this because it's on the label, but it actually smells a little bit like cheap red wine. It doesn't smell like good red wine. It smells like the cheap shit that $2 Chuck. So corn, $2 Chuck, and smoke. I like a pretty nice hint of smoke there. On the palate, it's not bad. A little bit of honey, banana, a pepper note. And tobacco. About a pretty short finish, so nothing to write home about. So this is the Jack Daniel's Tennessee Taster Selection. It's kind of meh. Okay, nothing to get excited about. Okay, we're going now to somebody who skinned a sheep and put it on a bottle. So this is literally called Wolves. It's Press Pool First Run Rye Whiskey and Hopped Flavored Whiskey, Batch 1, and that white stuff right there is sheepskin. And bonus points for anyone else out there who tells me what else they use sheepskin for. Okay, so let's give this thing a shot. I mean, it smells like hops. It smells like stale beer and some kind of like sweet skin. Sweet skin. It said sweet skin because this guy here, Brad Dickey, writes sheepskin condoms, which that totally threw me off. But they put, and again to back into that, this is actual sheep hide, right? It's sheep. I mean, it feels like sheep hide. It's sheepskin. It's this. So this is actual sheepskin leather, and old Brad Dickey there is letting us know what else they use sheepskin for. Perfect name to actually mention that whole deal too. Okay, so hops, like stale beer, chocolate, cinnamon. I got a really nice cinnamon note there. It, the nice note here is it's got a malty undertone. It's got some chocolate to it, some baking spices, and it's got a pretty decent finish. Like this is a whiskey if you're into different styles. I mean, you might actually really like this. So this is for your kind of a adventurous whiskey drinker, and get ready to spend some money because it is $150. So can you see that all right? I feel like it's washing it out. I don't feel like you can see it. $150. All right. Let's go to Kentucky Owl Confiscated. So this is actually one where this will be my third time tasting it. So I will now score this. I will now rate this because I do not rate anything that has not been tasted 3 times, because I don't believe you can. I believe we taste differently every other day. So here we go. This is going to be the first score I've given. This is not the first. This is the scoring round of Kentucky Owl Confiscated. And going into this, I'm going to tell you that this has not been something that's really wowed me. It's been very underperforming for me. So I would actually put it in the league of kind of like cocktail whiskeys. So here we go. Going to Confiscated Kentucky Owl. Well, that's got some it's got some banana to it. It's some fruit, more fruit, caramel, vanilla, but after that it falls flat. Big thing on this is like it hits the palate and it just kind of like hits and then like goes away. There's not any substantial mouthfeel. There's not any kind of like coating anywhere on the palate. It's just kind of in and out. But when it's in there, when it's on that palate, it's got some decent flavors there. But like the juicy fruit gum is like a note that comes to my mind. Like get the yellow packages that taste very similar to that juicy fruit gum in like a yellow package. From there, some bread, like a toast bread with a little bit of butter on it, and I don't know what that note is, but there's another note there. in a kind of another bread and banana note. So let's say it's banana bread, banana nut bread. But that's probably the most prominent note here. Uh, Actually, a pretty decent finish, medium to long finish with mm, just a touch of like vanilla. But you know, the thing is, this whiskey is 100 and what's the Jessica? What's this whiskey cost? Is 199? Yeah, I think this is 199. I believe 120. 120. Thank you, Dram Man. Dram Man, Kentucky, coming through in a pinch. We should send him something or her. Oh, 130 around here. Okay, so we got a question here from Dram Man, and that is rumor is Kentucky Owl Confiscated is a Barton sourced. I can actually confirm that is most likely the case, which is, I don't have a source telling me that, but I know where all the whiskey's coming from for these source folks, and it's mostly Barton. Does it fit that flavor profile? Yeah, it does. But $17.92 is not $120. Okay, so let's go to. Oh yes! Oh my gosh, I didn't score it. I'm leaning toward. That's not it. Oh shit! I think I already lost it. I'm gonna have to get another glass. So I'm gonna give this an 84. It's a very approachable whiskey. You can definitely get a you can have an appreciation for it. It's definitely something that you can have, in the house by the fireside. Probably be great for cocktails, but that's I try not to judge whiskeys based on their price because it's not the whiskey's fault that's it's priced so highly. So you have to really try to separate, what bias you may have for on the price. But the all I can do is kind of rate it based on, the whiskey. And so 84 is a pretty firm score for me on Kentucky Owl Confiscated. Okay. And we're going to have another score coming up. We have Four Roses Small Batch Select. Now, this is a kind of an exciting new product. It is something that we are, we were very excited to see that, Four Roses, which kind of came back to the American market in the early 2000s, kind of came on the scene with, single barrel, small batch, and they had these limited edition small batch. And then they kind of started, plateauing out a little bit with like what people could get. But their stuff is fantastic, award-winning. Longtime master distiller Jim Rutledge used to run the show. Now it's Brent Elliott, who is fantastic. He's got a great palate, and you can really see with what I've tasted so far. You can really see Brent staking his claim on Four Roses with the Four Roses Small Batch Select. This to me is is a fun new product on the market. And so here we go, Four Roses Small Batch Select. This is a scoring taste. Oh man, this has got leather in a good way. A lot of leathers tend to be a little musty, but this is leather like you walk into a tack room. If you were ever had horses, that smell. like a nice saddle leather. It's beautiful. And then right in underneath that saddle leather, you're getting the spice, you're getting the fruits, you're getting the caramel. And I got to tell you, the most prominent aromatic property in here after the saddle leather is vanilla. And why that is unique is that for me, Four Roses has always been cinnamon forward on the nose, and that's not the case here. So that's why I say that this is kind of Brent Elliott staking his claim. Mm. Oh, that's money. That's so good on the palate. And it really velvety, just kind of getting in that palate and just kind of walking itself back. Starts kind of stepping in with like the vanillas. There's a real nice, like bittersweet chocolate right there in the mid palate. And then you get an explosion of like the baking spices. It starts with nutmeg for me, and then it goes to cinnamon. But my goodness. Oh, that is great. Yeah. So now I'm looking at seeing what other notes I might pick up on that second taste. And I'm getting some like black pepper spice and a gosh, there was that. What's that real thing? That pralines. Pralines always escape my mind. Like I love them, but I don't eat them a lot. But I get a nice praline here, and it's still going. I mean, that finish is still going. It's a pretty nice finish, and I love a long finish. Okay. Long finish. With kind of like a briny, like a brininess, like a briny sweetness. Long finish with a briny sweetness. All right, time for the score. I'm going to give the Four Roses Small Batch Select a 91. So congratulations. That's a fantastic. Great question. If that briny sweetness was kind of like a salted caramel, and when you taste this, you may very well get that note. And I'm wondering, for me that brininess is something that in my mind I go to, there's several layers of briny. There's like the inside of an oyster shell, all the way to straight up licking the ocean. So you've got a lot of separation between here and there. And I would say that this would be like a Mediterranean kind of brine. Like we did like I brine my chicken, and then we would boil off the brine, and sometimes we would use that something else, and then afterward you have a sweet or something. But there's like just briny, and salt is different to me than briny, and then the salted caramel is very, very particular. So no, it's I can't put my finger on what that Four Roses finish is, but it is like a briny sweetness. That's about all I can say to it. Okay, so let's go to we did the Kentucky Owl. All right, we are now also going to be tasting Legent. Now, Legent is Jim Beam's new whiskey on the scene. It is where they blended various types of bourbons. That was a collaboration between Japan and Claremont. And as you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful label signed by the master blender for Suntory, and of course the master distiller for Jim Beam, Fred No. Now, on a previous Bourbon Pursuit podcast, I came out pretty vehemently opposed to this, because I believe that how this is being marketed, as and there's so much connection to bourbon on this. I believe that is I think that's a fallacy to bourbon distilleries, and I think they should not be marketing themselves so prominently as a bourbon. And you see websites and news organizations calling this a Japanese bourbon, and that bothers me in a lot of ways, because of course the Japanese cannot make bourbon. Bourbon can only be made in the United States. So what they did is they did these various finishes with all these barrels, and then they blended them. And to me, that whole category is on the verge of really, really hurting the intentions of barrel finish. And I really have a problem when you have 2 or 3 barrels that are being introduced into the finish, and it's still called a whiskey. If it is 1 barrel and it's like Angel's Envy, and it's say it's finished in a port barrel, there was just 1 barrel introduced into the process, I am actually fine with bourbon being on the label with that designation that it was finished in a barrel. But once you get past to a 2nd barrel and a 3rd barrel, and in some cases 4 barrels, to me, bourbon needs to come off the label, because it has been so altered. So many efforts have been done to alter what bourbon is. And when you don't taste bourbon, we got a problem. Okay, so with all that said, I will do my best to objectively taste this and just tell you how I think it tastes. I mean, it could be that I like it. I've tasted it twice. This will be my 3rd time. So this is a scoring round. And so let's see how this bad boy tastes. Oh, John Timms. What up, John? Now, this is a good time in the program to mention that I am an Oklahoma State alum. And some wonderful Instagram follower a while back took the time to hand carve this this Pistol Pete into a Glencairn, and I drink out of it all the time, because it's always nice to see my school's alma mater. All right, here we go. So Legent. All right, it's it's kind of like cherry forward. It's like very cherry. It's like some apricot. Some like roasted nuts, like walnuts, and like a hint of cornbread. All right, to the palate we go. The palate is a struggle. It feels like all those fruits that I talked about are over on one part of the tongue, and then that cornbread I mentioned is on another. It's almost like the blend wasn't complete. And they did not the flavors did not merge, and so you have at the tip, I've got like this. I've got this like the fruits, and then toward the back, um, I have like the cornbread. It's almost like two separate tastings going up at once, and so I think I think this might work if they had some some really decent age in it, but it's not working for me. Um, and again, I've tried to remove my bias from this. If I like this, I would tell you. And there are products that I have tasted that I disagree with how they were made, and I like them. You know, what's one that I can give you an example of? Oh, some of the Whistle Pig releases. I was not a fan of of like how they marketed themselves in the beginning, but I'd taste their whiskey and I loved it. But there was so that's an example. A question came in: any idea of the age of the bourbon they started with? Let's see. Do we have that in our notes anywhere? I want to say it was all 4 to 6 years old. I don't think there was anything of noteworthy age in here. Yeah, but you know what? I can follow up and I can find the answer to that. So score time. So the finish was actually short. It was a short finish with a hint of plum. I'm gonna have to. Would I have to rate this under an 80? I'm rating this a 79. Yeah, this is something like I can't even think. I can't think of a group that I would recommend this for. It's not. It's got a nice price point, so it's not something bad to have in the house. But 79 is not a high grade for me. That's it's a pass. It's a pass. So if you want something that's like a C, there you go. Okay, so now we got. What's next? The Elijah Craig. So the Elijah Craig. We do have another Elijah Craig that's up for a scoring round. This one here, the A19. Do the B one first. First crack at the Elijah Craig batch B519. Okay. I think we all know now that the Elijah Craig barrel proofs are phenomenal. I usually need a new glass. I need another glass. It smells like sweat. It can't not be the. You know what? That glass smells like sweat too. Smell it. Yeah, am I right? So as we remove the sweat from our glasses, this is something that we you have to think about this stuff when you're a taster. You gotta the glasses sometimes will sit around for a bit. Is that right? Yeah, these are good. Thank you, Jessica. So the question is that the lowest proof ever? I gotta say it may be. I mean, I'm one of those guys that proof doesn't mean a lot to me. Like, you need it's there legally and all that. I rely so much on the taste. Like, I think that's where. I mean, something can be 140 proof and taste less hot than an 80 proofer. So, So anyway, I do think that's on the lower side. I am not entirely sure if that is the lowest proof. And yes, vodka does suck. Thank you for that, Matt. We've went 30 minutes without mentioning vodka sucks. Okay, so now here we go. Elijah Craig B519. Woo. Man, this is good. That palate or that nose is just screaming caramel. And it's one of those, like, I can tell you that the caramel in this is so prominent. It really masks a lot of other things, and the alcohol will kind of just come up underneath and give you more, pack in more caramel there. But there's some hints of like floral. There's some hints of like something like a honeysuckle. Damn, but a lot of caramel. Oh man. That's the kind of taste that makes me want to close the computer down, stop working, find a campfire and some buddies, and just sit there and talk. Because my God, it's good. That palate is layered. You got chocolate, you got caramel, you got vanilla. And I know that sounds like, oh, whoop de doo. But underneath that, you got some like really nice, like a some like chewy dough, some like corn. Like, you ever had chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream? That doughy part of the chocolate chip cookie dough, there's just a little bit of that like vanilla there. There's that chocolate coming in with it. It's like chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream is like best tasting note I can give this. If I were to point one note, brown sugar, some coffee, some hazelnut. This is seriously fantastic. I've got some more taste to do, but I see this getting a pretty nice score from me. Again, that's Elijah Craig B519. Did I just get a little Bananas Foster there? You like Bananas Foster, Jessica? You never had banana? No? Really? How can you live in Kentucky and not have Bananas Foster? You're always invited. Long, beautiful finish. I can't wait to score this one. This one's going to be up there. That's gorgeous. All right. So now we're going to go to the predecessor of B519 and go to A119. And we have a scoring round. This is the second time I've tasted. This will be the third time I've tasted this. And we are going to see what this Elijah Craig A119 is all about. Wait, that's, yeah. What? No, I didn't do it. Just got to make sure something. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we are starting with This is starting out like little licoricey, cinnamon, like earth, you know, earthy. And oak. Earthy, like mossy earthy, you know, like in a like by a pond or something. That kind of earth, that smell. You know what I'm talking about? You're in the woods, you go in the by a pond. There's like a pungent, earthy smell. Might be a dead dog over there in the corner. The dead dog's not in this though. No dead dog in this. Yeah, potting soil is definitely an earth smell. It tends to be more. I find that potting soil is more like vitamin. You know, it's like a lot of stuff put in there. Mm, kind of flat. This is I find this to be kind of flat. It's woody. I mean, it's still got some nice things to it. It's got some flavor. It's got some caramel, some cinnamon. Um, it's pretty bitter, kind of a dry mouthfeel. I'd say the most prominent notes like a dark chocolate, but not. Hmm. Let me just kind of let me make sure that I'm not. Oh, sorry about that. Just want to make sure that I'm not. Um, that I'm not, comparing. I'm not coming off this incredible high from B519, and I'm coming over here to this like you know A119, which is kind of like going from a sweet ride like a Porsche to a car that I have, a Ford Escape with your kids graham crackers creviced in the seat. Have you ever noticed that? Like kids just, I mean, they just like bring all kinds of food with them. I mean, Julian, he's 8 months old and he's got like salmon coming out of his fat rolls. Amazing. All right, let's give this another pour. Give this a shot here. That nose is still pretty spot on. It's very oaky, green oak and earthy. And I just I mean, again, that palate's just not it's not doing it for me. What were my initial notes? Yeah, you can add some chocolate, some dark chocolate, and there. What's that Kentucky? Uh, that Kentucky like chew that they always have at parties. The Majestic. Yeah, and it's got that note in there. Majestic. Majesca. Yeah, so it's got that note in there. It's a Majesca. And then it's a pretty flat finish, probably a short, medium finish, with a hint of. I hate to say this, but oak. I mean, it's like this is a 12-year-old Elijah Craig cask strength, but when the oak can be overpowering, that's really bad. And you don't want oak to be overpowering. You want it to be kind of an accent into the whiskey. And I actually have a bit of a theory on Heaven Hill whiskeys, and is that like they're great between 8 and 12 years old. And then after 12 years, after you get past 12 years, the clock is kind of like ticking, and it's because their barrel entry proof is 125 for everything. So I am of the belief that the lower barrel age proofs do better after like 12 years, whereas the other ones do not. And there's some pretty good data to back me up on that. Okay, that was that. There's a bottle that I got the other day. I've never really put a lot of time and effort into this brand, and I'll be honest with you, they kind of piss me off because they bottle everything at 88 proof. Who bottles at 88 proof? I mean, you have to go out of your way to bottle at 88 proof. I mean, it's like, Woodford Reserve's like, I think 90.4. You've got a couple 92.53s. That's just kind of like where people fell into something. That's like wasn't by design. You have to go out of your way and work really hard to be 88 proof. I just think that's one of the lamest proofs that you can ever possibly come up with. But whatever. So now, here I am going to taste the 10-year-old Corner Creek. And this is a source brand, pretty popular in Kentucky. I will say this: well, I'm a little bitchy about the proof. I really like this bottle. Like my drinks career really kind of started with wine, so I like these all. I like these cool bottles that feel like a wine bottle. I don't know why, but I do. Yeah, maybe I'm weird. Okay, so here we go. Corner Creek, 10-year-old, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'll be damned. That's a pretty good nose. A little dried apricot in there. I like that smell. I like a dried apricot, like a nice dried apricot. A little an earth, but like a fresh cut grass. If anyone loves that smell, like that fresh cut grass smell, you know what I'm talking about, and it brings a joy to my olfactory every time I smell it. As long as I didn't have to do the grass cutting. I mean, I don't have a big yard, but God, do I hate cutting grass. I did have when I was a kid, I used to mow lawns for people. Maybe that's why. Did you mow lawns, Jessica? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's fruity. I said apricot, but it's more than that. There's some citrus here. It's a very particular note. Oh, what the fuck is that note? All right, Jessica's going to take a nose. I'm going to say anise. There's an anise note in there. Yeah, I'll say it's anise. And this is what I'm talking about. You give me this very nice nose. You spend all this time with a very nice bottle, and you fucking bottle it at 88 proof. What are you thinking? Now, I have all of this, like these mental notes of these things I was smelling, and I'm hoping to find them in the palate, and I get nothing. I get like, and I can tell that they're there, but they've been cut down, below where they would be detectable on the palate. So, they're not very prominent. So you do have notes there. Yeah, you got some kind of like a herbal chewy kind of candy. You've got a um you even have a hint of marzipan here. There's there's honey, there's almonds, there are things here, but they're like so like light. It's like, why did you do this to this whiskey? I mean, I think this could have been really great whiskey, but Jesus, excuse my language, but yeah, I got really excited about that nose, and then the palate kind of disappointed me. Very short finish. I would say it almost has no finish. It's pretty short finish. Okay, so that's that on that one. Do we have any more glasses? I'll knock these two out, and then we'll be done. Yeah. All right, so we have two more to taste. These will be scoring rounds. I've got Wild Turkey Revival. This is the Oloroso cat. Now, I've consumed a lot of this, but I've not actually professionally graded it. I've been really more drinking it. So now I will analyze it. Here we are, Wild Turkey Revival, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, finished in Oloroso cask. Now, this is very important. Oloroso casks tend to be drier, nuttier, whereas the PX casks will tend to be sweeter. So if you see Oloroso on a barrel, on a bottle, you should know that you won't have like a sweet, succulent note like you would in a lot of the other types of sherry casks. A very interesting, typical wild turkey nose for me. There's some earth there. There's some cinnamon. There's some nutmeg, and then right underneath all that, you get some like some pecans, like roasted pecans, and then I get like a pumpkin pie, sitting in the windowsill, cooling off. Which I don't know if anyone really does that anymore. Our windowsill couldn't handle a pumpkin pie; it'd just fall right out. Well, this is what I'm talking about. This is a finish that the finishing barrel did not override the bourbon. I know this is wild turkey. I'm tasting it. I get that kind of that wild turkey funk. They've got like their own like flavor. And to me, it's earth. You reach in the soil and you pick it up. You just feel like you're part of the environment, and that's what wild turkey is to me. And I think it is to a lot of others. It's just got a particular note. Call it the turkey note if you like, but yeah, it's got after the earth, you got some banana. Got some maltiness to it, and then it gets interesting. After those initial notes, I'm getting a lot of like breads, like cinnamon roll bread, kind of the doughy stuff. Really fun. It's fun, but where this whiskey falls short for me is the finish. So you had a lot of these nice tastes kind of leading up to all that, and then the finish kind of goes. So, yeah, that finish is really, really light. So if I'm scoring this, nose is great. The palate's very fun, but the finish just doesn't do it for me. So I'm going to give this Wild Turkey Revival an 86. Now this is when I bought this bottle, I actually thought this was going to be an historic bottle. It's Four Roses single barrel, 2014. It is 109 proof. The recipe is OESF. It is 11 years old. There were 7,122 bottles. I have bottle 519. You can see it's smudged. So if that's a different number, well, whatever. And the reason why I thought this was going to be a historic bottle was because they had made it known, or actually, this was something that I actually broke. This is when I was doing a lot of like breaking news stories about who was doing what and everything in whiskey, and I had learned that they were discontinuing their single barrel program, or their, for their limited editions. And they did. They actually discontinued it, I think, for 1, 2, maybe 3 years, and then they brought it back. So this was a bottle that I had actually purchased. I think I purchased a case of them. Yeah, of the same one. They're different proofs of 2014. Yeah. So there you go. I have I purchased a case of these, and apparently have been writing notes on them for some time. I spend way too much money on bourbon. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That old school Four Roses, no cinnamon, some molasses there. Hints of oak, caramel, vanilla. What is that? We'll just leave question mark. I don't know what that is. Very spicy. This is the kind of spice that hits the tip of the palate, walks all the way back, kind of tickles all along. Most prominent note there is most definitely cinnamon. I get some cornbread underneath that, and molasses. I get a lot of molasses in this. And if you ever had like sorghum molasses or sugarcane molasses, it's got a very, pungent, slightly sweet note. It's very fun. And then there's like a malt, a little bit like a Belgian style, some kind of Belgian, like the way the Belgian beers feel on my palate. I get that same kind of feeling, champagne-y kind of feeling. But this is excellent. Long finish, very long finish, with its most prominent note, cinnamon, coming forward. So this is a fantastic bourbon. Highly recommend it. There's no way you can find it, because I think I and 5 other people bought all the bottles. But it's about, to me, it's probably a 92 point bourbon. So Four Roses, 2014 single barrel, 92 points. All right, and that's a wrap. How many did we taste? We tasted 10 whiskeys, all within an hour. I apologize for the technical difficulties right off the top, but as you all know, I'd still rather be writing on a typewriter than dealing with all this technology stuff. So, it is what it is. Thanks a lot for joining me, and stay tuned for more schedules and everything on live stream tastings. Cheers.